Hey everyone, welcome to this webinar. Today we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic for me, especially as a former procurement professional, and that's all about requisitions and what you can do far better when you deploy autonomous procurement around them. So I'm going to host this webinar today. My name is Daniel Barnes. I used to be a procurement practitioner in like my former life. I actually spent most of my career in sort of defense, working across public, private sector, doing loads of weird and wonderful stuff in the defense space, working on indirect and direct procurement. I had quite a nice experience with both. And I'm joined by Mitch Clark today, our senior solution consultant. And Mitch, I don't know if you want to say anything, but your experience, your background is ridiculous as well. You're constantly helping our customers move to this autonomous procurement model using AI agents. But I will just hand over maybe for 10 seconds for you to intro anything.
Yeah, I think you summarized it perfectly, Daniel. Thank you very much for
Amazing.
that. So that's my role.
Amazing. Appreciate it, Mitch. And Mitch is going to show us some really cool stuff inside of the Pactum platform. Today, I'm really, really excited to see it. I just love what we're doing here. So just before we get started, I just want to give a bit of a brief in terms of what Pactum is for anyone who's hearing about Pactum for the first time. Maybe you don't know what we do, or maybe you know of us only through autonomous negotiations. But in short, what we do is autonomous procurement, and we do this through digital workers. And these are AI agents that actually do the procurement work end to end. So rather than simply giving you a tool that lets you do things a little bit faster, a little bit better through workflows and automations, we actually give you digital workers that can accomplish tasks, objectives, follow policies, do really cool stuff. And I think it's incredibly exciting time to be in procurement. Now, we do this in three specific areas. So area one is indirect procurement, everything from intake through sourcing into negotiation. The second is direct procurement. And in plain terms, that's agents that keep watch on what you're actually paying for with regards to your direct materials, checking supplier claims against the real numbers, modeling what something should cost, tracking commodity prices, and keeping price lists current. So nothing drifts without anyone catching it or without a digital worker getting all over it. And then the third area is supplier management. And this is engaging your entire supplier base continuously at scale, whether that's improving contractual terms, think about like payment terms improvement, whether you're kicking off like a virtual card, procurement card program within your org. You can communicate with every single one of your suppliers there, collecting records, communicating en masse. So really across all three of these areas, we think about it in the same way. We give you your procurement team an AI workforce that scales with the business, not another tool just to help one person do their job a little bit faster. And today we're going to focus on the indirect side. We're going to focus on that requisition process. We're going to focus on being inside of Coupa. And this is where alignment sits. This is where we do all of the checks against all of your policies to make sure all of these requisitions are going through in a compliant manner. Now, if you have any questions throughout, please use the Q&A capability here. Just click on Q&A, add your question, and we'll come to that at the end. If we can answer it whilst we're obviously going through anything or showing you a demo, we will absolutely do that. I will just interrupt Mitch. Sorry, Mitch. I will interrupt him if it's timely and try and get you some answers as we're doing stuff. We're doing a 30-minute session. We're sort of 5 minutes in. We've got 25 minutes. So I'm just going to quickly go through two additional areas before I hand over to Mitch. So firstly, is like the problems we see. And these are the problems we hear every single day when we're talking to new prospects and our existing customers. And problem number one that we hear is like this complete unknown. So most procurement teams actually can't tell you how long it takes for them to do all of the checks regarding a requisition. So when they get recs raised, a lot of this happens in and around them. It happens inside email, spreadsheets, Slack, Teams, handoffs between people in the office. And honestly, this was my view. Like I used to be a buyer at a couple of defense companies. I used to spend like 2-3 hours every single day just going through recs and making sure that they were compliant against our policies, making sure that if certain values have been hit, like I'm going to go out to RFQ. But there was just so much busy work around all of these checks, and I had to check them as fast as possible. And if I didn't do it at the start of my day, other stuff would derail it. So like we know this is a real problem. Most of us have experienced it in procurement, that this just constant, unending pile of work that is always happening. And some organizations have decided to outsource this. You outsource it to a BPO, but even then, like you're still not getting the depth of check that you actually require. They're going to do the minimum level of work to get the check and to do it as fast as possible. And what this means is before, by the time anyone actually discovers a problem with a requisition, like a wrong category code, missing details, like expired contract, off contract spend, something like that, most of the time this rec's already been pushed through because we're just trying to be incredibly efficient because no one wants to be the blocker. Procurement is always sadly referred to as blockers of the business. We're so like scarred by that. Like we want to really push things through. So we're either pushing things through that aren't quite compliant, or we're taking the time to review it and then slowing down everything. And if we don't do these checks up front and if we don't get it right, we're actually just saying, well, we don't really have a problem upstream. We're just saying the problem can arise further downstream, typically for other people involved in the process. And this is where also like finance can get involved, get a little bit frustrated with procurement as well. So we're going to be talking about alignment at the very start when a requisition is raised in Coupa. And here's a really great thing, and Mitch, hopefully we can cover this a little bit in the demo, and it's something that I've genuinely been amazed at. I've only been here I'm like into month 2. I'm really excited to come to Pactum with all the cool stuff it's doing. But like we just sit really nicely on top of Coupa, so we're not asking customers of Coupa to replace or like rip out stuff or significantly change anything they're doing. We can drop the alignment agent capability where they're already working today. And that's incredibly powerful because it means the path to adoption, the path to change management, and the ways in which it can start driving value are felt very quickly. We can get set up incredibly fast. And we think about 5 value pillars when it comes to alignment. So for one, speed. And I was just looking internally at some of our stats on requisition alignment, and we're roughly doing these checks, and this could be like 90 policies, very complex policy reviews for some of the biggest companies in the world, and they're taking like 48 seconds to do versus like the manual time of me scraping together that review in like 2-3 hours and trying to do it as fast as possible and never really doing it with the consistency that it merits. We also get better productivity because buyers, procurement folk, you can actually start focusing on just the exceptions. You can focus on more strategic work rather than just going through recs, going through that task every single day and fixing errors. And probably for the first time, you have visibility. You have visibility of every requisition, every deviation, every issue, every blocker within your policies that maybe someone in a center of excellence can say, actually, this isn't working for our supply base or this category, maybe we should make some changes. So it really helps fuel improvements across your procurement org. And then we have compliance. This is like a no-brainer. It's like such a huge value prop here, but making sure every rec is actually compliant within seconds is huge. And then the ability to actually make savings, because this alignment agent can actually offhand to a range of different procurement agents that can go off, find approved suppliers, create some competitive tension, autonomously negotiate and drive savings. So it's all pretty incredible. And like for me, as someone who's followed the procurement tech space now for near off a decade, it's really cool to see these things happening in procurement and actually happening. They're not just a demo, like they happen with some of the biggest customers in the world. But that's kind of the intro. That's kind of what we're going to be focused on today. I'm going to hand over to Mitch. Mitch, maybe if you want to share screen, I'll give you a couple of seconds to get loaded there. Mitch is going to show you some really exciting stuff here. I've just been blown away by Alignment Agent, the capabilities of it. As a former procurement practitioner, I think it's incredible. So Mitch, I'll be quiet now, hand over to you and let you show some really cool stuff.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all see my screen right now. Can you see it, Daniel? Perfect.
Yes, we can see a quotation on screen right now.
Fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted to have on the screen. So as Daniel said, right, the objective of today is to show you 3 things. First, I'm going to show you how we take cycle time on a requisition review from what we typically see in the market today as sort of 3 to 5 days SLA to a matter of minutes inside your existing systems. Secondly, I'm going to show you how we take that existing requisition and we compete it with suppliers to make sure that you're getting the best possible commercial outcome on those savings. And then finally, I'm going to show you our bread and butter at Pactum, which is our negotiation agent, how we take that offer, how we compare it with suppliers, and build a sourcing negotiation strategy to get the best commercial outcome for you guys. As you can see on the screen right now, I have a quotation. It's a fairly standard quotation, right? And typically what would happen in this instance is a business user who doesn't have much procurement experience is likely to log into something like Coupa, which is what I'm flipping over to right now, and to fill out a requisition form, right? So they'll enter their basket of items that they want to purchase based on the quotation that's been put forward. Generally, a requester isn't a procurement person. They're busy, and like all of us, they'll make honest mistakes. I've actually planted 3 in this requisition. So in this instance, if you looked at the quotation, the price doesn't match on a line item level to what the quotation is that's been put forward. I'm going to say that this is a honest requester, and he's done that by accident, not to escape any spend thresholds or anything like that. But we know it happens, right? The second issue that I've planted in this is essentially the unit of measure. So in this instance, you can see that I've ordered an each on that first line. Actually, if you looked at the quotation, what is required is a spool. Being honest, I don't even know what a spool is, but it's just a good example that I can sort of show you. The unit of measure one is actually one of my favorites because early in my career, I ordered 144 rolls of tape and got 144 cases of 144 rolls, and a very angry warehouse foreman asking me where to put this information. These rolls of tape. So essentially, this is a problem which is quite close to my heart. And then the final issue that I posted in this is actually Innovative Components Ltd, which is a supplier that's going to potentially win this work, isn't a preferred supplier in the commodity strategy. So it should really be bid, right? Ultimately, we don't have a contract in place with this supplier. And this is where the alignment agent actually really kicks in. So essentially what happens at this point is if I flip down to the approval flow, in Coupa directly, we sit directly in the approval flow. So you can see here, this is our Pactum alignment agent. And the second I submitted it, the agent will pick it up as a step in your approval chain. It will first look to scrub the information, identify where there are issues that I planted. So the unit of measure or the price or the commodity code, exactly as I talked to. It will identify if there are any discrepancies there and flag it to the end user. But I actually think what the really cool thing is as well is you can also utilize the alignment agent as a contextual engine for your category strategies. So as a former procurement professional like Daniel in the field, every year I would draft a category strategy. I would present it to my CPO. He'd say, "Great job, great presentation." Off I ran to go and fight some more fires in the business, right? Ultimately, what we can do is build a policy around that category strategy, therefore ensuring that people that aren't procurement professionals still have to follow your category strategy. And we can build that, and I can show you how we can build that in just a second. But ultimately, the first thing, as I said previously, is that the alignment agent will look to scrub the information. So what I'm showing you here is ultimately the Pactum agents come up with 5 policy violations, exactly what I identified to you earlier. So there's an issue with price, unit of measure, and commodity code. At this point, the requester is advised that this will be rejected should they not withdraw it and make changes to this requisition. In the background, I'm going to delve very quickly into the actual Pactum background as well. You as the end user have full visibility across all of your requisitions, what's happening in your business, who's submitting, what's consistently getting rejected. So you can start to build category strategies and identify opportunities in that way as well. In addition to that, what Pactum does is, because we've done this over thousands of different requisitions, we have a whole host of different policies already in place, ready to catch some of the more obvious errors that we're aware of. But as I said previously as well, you can also go into our AI assistant and you could upload your category strategy and work with our AI assistant, which is essentially an LLM, right? To build policies which we can then implement into Coupa. Almost having an engineer at your fingertips is the best way I like to put it. I could bore you for an hour on just this alone, but I'm not going to get into too much detail here. the last thing that I wanted to point out is we also present you with a dashboard. So you as the end user have the ability to see what is consistently failing in your business. Is there a particular category where the commodity is consistently wrong with the type of supplier? Therefore, do we need to run a sourcing strategy off the back of it? What we try to do is not only flag issues, but produce solutions for our clients as well. And we think that that's incredibly important. I'm going to pause there from a requisition perspective. We could go into a lot more detail around it, but ultimately at this point, the end user would be expected to come in, fix the requisition, and then the approval flow flows forward. At that point of fix, what happens is the Pactum negotiation agent will kick in. And this, as I said previously, is the real exciting bit for me. This is what I absolutely love, because this is what I've done on a day-to-day basis for the last 10 years, right? Ultimately, what the agent will do is, in the comment section of Coupa or Ariba or whatever STP system you want, and also in your email as the requisitioner, you'll receive a comment that essentially says, hey, Pactum's identified an opportunity to source this requisition from other suppliers as well. And essentially, this will look back on your sourcing history. This is not based off some supplier that's giving Pactum information or money to make suggestions. This is based purely off your own history. And ultimately, it will make recommendations as to suppliers that have already provided you with the same services. Why don't you go out and bid this work? And we know this is incredibly powerful, because what Pactum also does is single supplier requisitions, where we'll do a single negotiation with a supplier. Usually we'll see savings between sort of 1 to 2% in that area. If we introduce competition at this point, we know savings go up to around 7 to 8%. And I know anybody that's been in procurement in any shape or form will say, yeah, of course it's 7 to 8%, because that's what we always say, right? But realistically, that's what we've seen. We know that there's a 16x improvement between single supplier requisition negotiations and competitive negotiations as well. So ultimately, at this point, what the end user can do is essentially copy this URL that's been put forward. It will also be in their inbox as well. And then they go back into the Pactum suite. And then in a matter of literally a minute, Pactum's prepared a statement of requirements for the end user to review, making sure that the services that have been put forward have all been cleansed of any commercial information that might be specific to a very unique supplier. So we work a lot in pharmaceutical, for example. You can make changes to that here, or you can just simply approve it. In addition to that, you can add in suggested suppliers, as I said previously, and you just simply click add them to the event, right? Once you've added them to the event, you can then start the event. I don't know where my start button's gone here, but we're running a live demonstration, so there we go. Let me just try and refresh this. Nope, maybe it's already started. At the point that you click start the event, which there's usually a button there, the supplier will receive an email. So imagine I'm in established industrial hardware, right? I've not actually ever seen this work previously. So I guess the key question is, well, before I run any negotiation, I need to know what my starting point is. And essentially, once I get an email from Pactum, which, by the way, is completely unique to your organization, we don't say this is a Pactum email. It comes from your organization, branded to your requirements, using all of your font, etc., etc. It's really important that it looks very clean to the suppliers, and that they know that this is your negotiation, not Pactum's negotiation. They'll be invited into a portal such as this. Essentially, at this point, all they'll have to do is click on a link and they'll enter straight into the negotiation. We try to make things as easy as possible for our suppliers to negotiate in Pactum. And we know typically a end-to-end negotiation will take in the region of 20 to 30 minutes. And I've seen that happen across negotiations that go into the realms of millions of dollars in spend as well. It's not just for for lower spend areas. So just delving through the negotiation, I've actually already pre-clicked through an element of this negotiation. But what happens first is that the agent will essentially look to confirm what offer the supplier is going to put forward for these goods and services. So they'll provide them with the statement of works that we prepared, and they'll also provide them with line level detail of each of the units that have been put forward. At that point, the supplier is then able to go in and submit their own quotation. Again, I've already clicked through this because in the space of 5 minutes, it would have taken me 5 minutes to type it, right? So essentially, in this instance, Established Hardware's proposal is, we'll give you these goods and services for $40,000, and I'm willing to give you a payment term of 15 days. Once you've done that, and this is where the magic really happens, Pactum will ingest this offer. It will look at the alternative offers on the table, and it will develop a specific negotiation strategy for this piece of work. I nearly said for this specific supplier, but that's not actually true, because if it also looks at other suppliers' offers as well in terms of building that negotiation strategy. It will establish an anchor offer, which I'll show you in just a minute, which we go in particularly low with suppliers, and then it will trade off both payment terms and total price to get to a final agreement with the supplier. And this is one thing that actually we see differentiate Pactum in the market. We trade off different terms in a negotiation. It's not a race to the bottom from a price perspective. We try to give the supplier options and really create that reciprocity in the negotiation. We don't want them to walk out feeling like they've been backed into a corner, right? Because these are suppliers that you use day in, day out. We want them to feel appreciated by the system and listened to. And actually, that's one thing we have seen in the negotiations that we've put forward. We know that 82% of suppliers prefer negotiating with Pactum. And a lot of people, when I speak to them, are like, they just sort of pull a face like, why? But the reality is these suppliers weren't getting talked to at all yesterday, right? And we give them that voice and we give them that opportunity as well. So essentially, once you've submitted that quotation, what happens is Pactum will present to them a meso. A meso is a multiple equivalent simultaneous offer. Essentially, that means that we will offer them different packages of the same offer. So the discount level will be the same, but ultimately, again, we're trying to create that reciprocity, that choice of option in the negotiation. We know that typically our opening offer is always rather low, because you always build up in a negotiation, right? So start low, build up. We know that in a negotiation, from the 6 years of experience that we have, that roughly 20% of suppliers will accept this first offer. Why will they accept this first offer? Because we show them how competitive they are, right? You can see on the right-hand side that the supplier, oh my goodness, I'm really uncompetitive. I'm never going to win this work. And by the way, to become extremely competitive, I need to offer a 43.8% discount, which is ludicrous, right? And so at that point, I've selected that I don't want to accept any of these, and the agent will ask me, why can't you accept it? So typically I would say discount too high. And again, just in the interest of time, I don't have time to go through every bit of this negotiation. But what would happen at this phase is the suppliers then invited to submit an offer back to the agent. You can do that on a general discount level. So I might want to offer them a 20% discount, or you can do it on a line item level as well. Ultimately, it's completely up to you. In addition to that, as you go through the phases of the negotiation, the supplier will be given feedback on a line item level to see where they're not competitive or they are competitive. In this instance, I put 0%, but that's fine. I'm going to close the general negotiation portal here, just in the interest of time, because we've got 5 minutes for Q&A. But there's two things I wanted to talk through. Once you reach agreement with a supplier, essentially what happens from a buyer perspective is you're given a full overview of the offers that have been put forward, and you can award the winner in the Pactum portal. And again, this is one of the really cool bits, because once you award the winner in the Pactum portal, flipping back over to that requisition in Coupa, you essentially have the you have that award written back into that same requisition. So fully autonomously, we've checked, we've submitted a requisition, we've checked whether that requisition was clean and compliant, we've added in competition, we've negotiated the best offer, and then in the same requisition, fully autonomously from a user perspective, we've updated that requisition with the updated offers that's been put forward. 5 minutes left for Q&A. There we go.
No, Mitch, I appreciate that, and I know I probably unfairly didn't give you anywhere enough
Fine.
time when we were like, let's go show the world like some of this. Mitch, there was maybe we have a couple questions, and also maybe I just have one. You kind of showed the AI piece on the policy like creation and things like that. I just thought maybe like you could maybe spend another minute just maybe talking about that and like some of the benefits there, because we do encounter even existing customers, new prospects that are coming through and talking with us in the sales process, but sometimes they just don't have like their policies quite right. Like they may have they may know that they do certain things in certain ways because they've got people who've been in post for a long time.
Yeah.
Like what are you seeing? Like how are people able to get started much quicker with that?
Well, in the first instance, we have a library of policies already available to those users, right? So we know typically what those users should be looking out for in terms of catching leakage in their spend. Where we talk about the AI assistant, the really cool thing about the AI assistant is that you can almost work with it to develop your policy. So if you don't know where to start with describing your problem, and it will give you, to an element, to a certain degree, the solution to that problem. So in pharma, for example, we've spoken a lot around regulated categories that specific suppliers need to be vetted in for certification and stuff like that. We've built policies around things like that for our pharma clients. So yeah, I would recommend you start with that AI assistant, and then if you don't really know what policies you want in place, brainstorm with the assistant to get those right policies in place. And in addition, the cool thing about Pactum is we provide you with people that have been in the industry for a very long time. So also we can work with you to do the same thing as well.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I think that's incredibly useful. I think so many people are, at times like really wanting to get started with like their AI journey in procurement. And let's be honest, procurement's been very underserved for a number of years by technology, and it's almost been left behind for so many years. And this is why I'm so excited by what Pat's doing, because just little things like that, which maybe if you're not inside of procurement or you're not at like the upstream part, like people just like really don't know how much of a huge impact it can have. Like getting it done, getting your requisitions reviewed properly, like you just showed, and then creating competitive tensions to drive down a price increase. But being able to do this on a scale unimaginable, like you showed it on one, and then it went out to like three in total. But imagine this on like 1,000 recs every single week, or some of these enterprise scales honestly blow my mind with like how many recs come through. Like I used to just deal with dozens a day, and I think if you've got thousands of buyers dealing with dozens a day, it really does add up very quickly. Maybe just one last question, Mitch, here, and maybe don't get too technical, but like parts of the Pactum product, like on the assistant there, the LOM, the negotiations a little bit different in terms of how we work it, because we don't want hallucinations and things like that. Maybe could you just give a couple words on that, like maybe not too technical, but at a higher level?
Sure, I'll do my best. So essentially, the negotiation agent is purely deterministic, and by deterministic we mean that it will not hallucinate in any way. It won't make up an answer for our client. It agrees what the right path is that the supplier should take. Should a supplier try to move away from that path, it's fine to, of course, not agree with an offer. We won't try and, put a gun to the head yet. Yeah,
Yes.
but essentially, what we'll do is we will try to put the supplier back onto the right path. We won't make something up that something like a ChatGPT or a Claude or whatever it is that you use might do. That's impossible. We operate in your parameters to your guardrails. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's genuinely incredible. Like my concern, sort of over procurement over the last few years has seen a lot of new AI products come to market, and just wondering like how can I trust the data? How can I trust what it actually does? And Casper and Christian, our co-founders, like just a few weeks ago showed me like their original patent and shows the entire deterministic AI engine of Pactum. I was like, oh my God, like this just absolutely blows me away. Mitch, thank you so much for hopping on, giving such an incredible demo in such a short space of time. We're going to be doing these every single month. Next month, we're doing one on direct procurement. We're also doing another version of this tomorrow, more at a time for our US audience. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who joined. Really appreciate your time and attention. Please look out for an email coming out from us in the next day or so with the recording and maybe a few other bits just to help you along the way. But thank you, and we'll see you real soon.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.